Yes.
Uh, but the practicality of it sometimes we miss because the person who is in the class, his perspectives is not taken into account.
Sure.
So when I was thinking about the theories of learning, um, it is a heavy topic.
Sure.
It has a lot because it's founded on a lot of history by the people who we are building this practice based on what they found out. People like Jean Piaget,
Piaget.
Pavlov, their theories are being used in education. I think that is in behaviorism or something like that. But now we are the one who are in class. So what is it that we are seeing,
Sure.
and how does it help the learner, the current learner, who is actually a 21st century learner, who is very different from the times when John Piaget and Pavlov were coming up with the theories. So
Sure.
what is it that we can bring in to make it more realistic and more useful? So Shadrach, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. From Buni team, we are very grateful to have you.
Sure.
It's some history. We went to school together. I know your character and your abilities,
Sure.
and definitely what you're doing right now with the school. And you told me you're working in a college and you're leading them towards attaining the best they can. We as the Big Buni team are encouraged by that kind of responsibility that you have taken upon yourself and the things you told me you're doing with your school, one of them being being keen on student happiness. I think that's a really important issue, especially with the current learner. If they're not motivated, they don't feel happy at school. Surely there is no learning.
Sure.
So over to you. Maybe I'll allow you to go ahead and speak about what is it that you do and go ahead to just introduce us to the theories of learning and just feel free to have these conversations.
Thank you, Bana Joseph. I don't know whether you like being called Joseph or Kimani.
It is actually Moses.
Moses.
Yeah, it's been a while, Shadrach.
And I have saved you as Joseph.
Don't worry, don't worry. Moses, Joseph, they're okay. I like being referred to just as Moses.
Okay.
Mostly my students call me Mr. Kimani, which is okay.
Okay.
People out there call me MK. All those work.
I tell you,
We're referring to this.
MK is becoming more of a brand.
Hopefully, at
Sure.
some time.
Sure.
Yes.
So thank you, Bana Kimani. And
Mhm.
I just like a few things that you've mentioned that I wish to start with.
Please.
That one, we are the people who are practicing learning and teaching at the moment.
Mm.
And that does not mean, it does not fight the concept that those who did before us in the 1950s maybe were not doing the right thing. They really helped us. We are developing everything from them. And that is why even in my discussion I want to mention what they have said, what they have written for us before we talk about now what we are going through today.
Mhm.
So, like I had mentioned, we have different types of, different theories that we can talk about today. However, I want to talk about one theory, one group of theories that I think will enlighten you today more than when we talked last. You said I'm a teacher and I should add something new for you.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes, yes. I was happy to hear your knowledge and depth in this
yes.
particular matter. I'm really interested.
Yeah, so today, alongside the theories that we are given, and we know the behaviorism, the cognitivism, the constructivism, and humanism, there are three more areas I want to talk about, and that is connectivism, which I slightly shared with you.
Mm.
But there is also another theory that, okay, I will talk about these two other theories as a group. I will call them supplemental theories, supplemental learning theories. And these are andragogy and LAN, LAAN.
Elderboy. Okay.
Yes, those are very critical theories at the moment.
Mhm.
So just to start with the way I have mentioned that when we talk about behaviorism, it is more psychological, and behaviorism is all about stimulus versus response behavior kind of learning. This is where a trainer initiates a stimulus, then expects a certain response from a learner. So the best way of knowing whether the learner has gotten the right concept or not is to look at the feedback. It's kinda you tickle the learner expecting the learner to laugh. If the learner does not laugh, then learning has not taken place.
Mm.
And then notice you don't do it once. You do it several times so that the learner gets used to it until they know that whenever you are tickled, you should laugh. So when you realize you are tickling a learner and the learner is not laughing, then you are not meeting the required objective. I'm using that as an example.
A very good example.
Yes. Then when there is something else in my previous video that I have not added in the discussion, how do you apply behaviorism in learning and development or in training? One, you can provide positive reinforcement to people, to learners. And you see, when I say to people, sometimes we don't just train learners, we sometimes train employees. So
Mm.
you reinforce positively, and this can be done automatically through rewards. You can do recognition, you can shout the names of students in the public positively, you can appreciate efforts, you can acknowledge performance. When you do that deliberately several times, people get used to doing the right thing because they feel they want to be appreciated. And I will use a very simple example of my family and my kids.
Mm.
I normally reward the first person to meet me when I come to my house.
Wow.
And let me tell you, they fight. In fact, the other day it was like chaotic because they were fighting for who becomes the first one until I had to regulate. And it has gone to the extent that whether I have a reward or not, they do it.
Mhm.
And the one who is 2 years, even when he doesn't know what he is running for, he will run for his life for daddy. So that is how behaviorism work.
Mm.
Another example on how to use behaviorism is to repeatedly use some kind of body language. You can
Mhm.
use the nonverbal cues, the eye contact, the, the physical body contact, or maybe body language to appreciate somebody, to show somebody you are doing a good job.
Mm.
People appreciate that and it motivates them to repeatedly do the same thing, especially at workplace.
Mhm.
However, sometimes we say behaviorism is like drilling
Mhm.
because in the absence of the trainer, then behaviorism cannot work. The
I
trainer
love
must be
that.
there. Yes, the behaviorism makes a trainee to become robotic to some extent. They can
Mhm.
only be controlled in that environment. So it,
Let me come in there.
yes,
Um, I love that way of thinking that without a trainer, this theory doesn't seem to attain its objective
sure,
because the stimulus in our discussion seems to be coming from the trainer
that
in the
is it.
class learning context.
Yes,
And it therefore puts um, the current learner, and sorry, I'm just maybe jumping the gun,
yeah,
in a very bad place because the current learner doesn't seem to really just want to listen and be told what to do.
sure,
In my view, the learner is more, they explore more, they're more curious. So I don't know how, if you are a behaviorist, I remember when you were students, you would pick a theory and align to it. If you are a teacher of this current age and you are a behaviorist, what is your place in teaching such a learner who is more outgoing, more curious, that the stimulus really may not push them? Because sometimes they're also saying we want them to be able to explore on their own, so that when you remove the stimulus, the learning continues.
Now, I will use an example of my research when I was doing research on CBC.
Mhm,
And I noted that most teachers complained that CBC made the learners to become bored. That you repeatedly do something and the current learner does not want you to repeat doing the same thing.
mhm,
If you are careful when you use a television, when you watch a television, the kind of music that the current learner wants to watch, the pictures will only last for 3 seconds. After every 3 seconds, they change because
mhm,
the span in which this person can watch something, can observe something, is very short. So that means that as a teacher, you need to be very creative in a way. So
mhm,
a good trainer will put their class content in a way that even if it is the same thing, the same objective you want to achieve, there are a number of breaks, and these breaks are student centered.
mhm.
An example I was giving you for the current students that I'm teaching at college, I would sometimes stop and tell them, everybody switch to your mobile phones, and I want to share my Wi-Fi, and they feel so good. Wi-Fi is so good for the Z generation.
Yes.
Then I tell them, I want you to research on who is the owner of Facebook.
Mhm.
And they are able to raise their hands and say, Zuckerberg, Zuckerberg. And everybody feels they have participated.
They have
And for
participated.
that 2-3 seconds you have given them, it changes the whole perspective of being bored.
Mm,
Like if you just did a small clip in class, a clip that is related to what you are teaching, that would change the entire class. Then you would continue with what you want to achieve.
and I love that, because breaks are really important
Sure,
in the learning process. You need a breather. I think it keeps the student more focused,
sure,
because they can do a few things on the side and come back to class.
sure.
But I'm trying to explore the idea that even without the breaks, how about having various stimuli, the video, but other than the video, you have an audio. Before they get bored in the 3 minutes, you say 3 seconds so of the audio, you have a different learning activity. Before they get bored with that, you have jumped into another one. I think that, what do you think around that? Would that still serve the purpose of ensuring that this very curious learner remains attentive, even when we're trying to use these various stimuli?
Perfect. It is perfectly said because in this case, our argument right now is on the relevance of a trainer in a situation where students feel bored. Because one of the challenges of behaviorism is boredom. And I
Okay,
like your explanation.
thank you.
So can we go to the second because of in the interest of time?
Yes.
So the second is cognitivism,
Mhm,
from cognition, cognitivism.
mhm,
So, like I said previously, this one relies on both internal and external factors.
mhm.
However, the external factors are meant to bring information, while the internal factors are meant to process the information. You remember the theory of the black box, if you
Mhm.
can remember, that our heads are like a black box.
We receive.
Yes. And whatever happens with that information, only the
Mhm.
head knows. That is why it's a black box.
Makes sense.
Yes. So
I was trying to get it. Now it makes
yes.
sense.
So this in cognitivism, a theory that was founded early in the 1950s. Psychologists tried to look at a head as a processor, that the head receives information, stores this information, processes this information, gives this information out. However, our heads are not cannot function with a giggle principle. Garbage in,
Yes.
garbage out. No. It is not obvious that whatever you give the student, they will produce the same. In fact, we don't expect the same. That is why we, teachers of mathematics, we teach 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. But when we bring an exam, we say
It
x
is
power
different.
2 minus y because we expect some processes to have taken place.
And I think that is a very important thing of about learning. It's not processing the information and produce it as it was received.
Given. That is it.
Otherwise, behavior will not have changed, and learning is a change of behavior.
Sure.
All right.
So, in my own view on how to apply cognitivism in learning, I prefer we engage students in group or class discussions, because when they are in that group or class discussion, the
Mhm.
external factor here is that group they will be giving information to. Assuming we select learner A, the learner B, C, and D will give information to this learner A. We expect this learner A to process that information, then give it out a processed answer, a processed argument from the discussion they have had. Then the second way we can also do this is to encourage students to identify links between concepts and events. That you look at a concept and you look at the event. And in my example, to explain this, I can give an example of my teacher of chemistry when I was in high school. There is a day she called me and she told me, okay, we were in the laboratory preparing for a certain practical, and she told me, Shadrach, take this and mix with this. And I would mix and go to step 2, step 3, and step 1. Finally, I came up with a product and she asked, what have you made? I tried to figure it out and I could not remember. And then she started explaining the theory she had explained in class. Then I was able to figure, oh, I have made sulfuric acid. I can
All
never
right.
forget that. You
I see the process.
yes, that is what cognitivism is all about. That you can figure out, you can identify in between the concepts and events and put them together and understand why things happen, understand why we are calculating mathematics and carrying one or putting what where. Those principles in English, of course, like why should we use the i's to start before e and e to start before I? Why? Because there is a concept we are connecting for us to get that principle. So this
I love
is,
that.
yeah, this is so good where principles and concepts are involved.
Let me just come in a little bit.
Yes.
That really speaks to me because I am a believer in teaching what students are able to relate with.
Mhm.
I am a teacher who I believe that every time I'm in class, I'm trying to make the concept one relatable so that the student is able to relate concept A with concept B
Sure.
and four, so that at the end of the day they're able to come up with these um, um, block of knowledge
Mm-hmm.
because they're able to relate an activity with an event. I think the same way you were saying.
Sure.
And I really love that. I see your eyes coming out when you saying those things. You are a real teacher because only a real teacher feels the passion when they are talking about such things.
Because it's a concept within me, and I wish I was planting it in teachers.
That is very good.
But you see, it's very difficult. So the best we can do is what we are doing and tell the colleagues that we can do it in a different way.
Makes
Now,
sense.
the other one is constructivism.
Constructivism now, yes.
Constructivism. And when we talk about constructivism, we are talking about maybe a concept of building, you know, and before you build, you must have the materials. And materials are predetermined. And
Mm-hmm.
that means that constructivism is predetermined. It depends on previous knowledge.
Okay.
In the current college setup, the TVET setup, CBET is the CBC of college setup. We have come up with a curriculum called CBET. It's a competency curriculum. And one of the things that has come on board, we are saying we want to recognize prior knowledge. So this
Yes.
is prior knowledge.
I had that discussion even during the campaigns that
Yes.
people with prior knowledge were to be certified.
Yes.
Something around that.
Yes. And we have already developed a curriculum for that. And,
Okay.
and an example is we have somebody who has been a salonist for 10 years. And she does so well with passion. She can do hairdressing and beauty very well. Should we bring this person with a Form 4 leaver to study in the same context for them to be certified?
But come to think of it, they shouldn't.
Yes, this person has prior knowledge. So prior knowledge should be certified.
Makes sense.
Yes. So this is a theory that may have come up a long time ago, but this is how I look at it. That in psychology, when somebody has prior knowledge, has information about solving a problem, this person has already learned. We only need to modify what they have. Now, how do we modify this, what they have? We can do this through reciprocal learning.
Reciprocal.
And being a teacher of mathematics, when I say reciprocal, I understand very much. But to some people, reciprocal is very hard.
You know, when you mentioned it, I picked things and put them upside down.
That is it. Reciprocal is putting things upside down. And now in this case, I'm talking about role playing in a class for students, like two students, role playing, and I become the teacher, you become the student. I teach you. Then after 2 or 3 minutes, we exchange the roles. You become the teacher, I become the student. Now, note this. By the time we are exchanging, so that you start teaching me, you already have some knowledge about what we are learning. Because I was the first one, so you have already picked some prior knowledge.
So you're an expert now.
Yes. So when you are doing it as the second person to role play, you correct my mistakes when I'm watching you. So I'm likely to learn from you. But remember, you also learned from my mistakes. That is why you are correcting them. So role playing is very good only when you apply it from that perspective.
And that is what we have been advocating for.
Yes.
That learning is not linear.
Sure.
It's not coming from the teacher to the student, processing it. Not even processing, just garbage in, garbage out, which used to happen sometimes back. But now we're in a situation where even the teacher should be a partaker of the same knowledge.
Sure.
Now you're saying once you have given some of the knowledge to the learner and they become experts as well, you can now sit back and watch them do it. And from that, you get a lot of feedback, which now teaches you how to do it next time.
And that is what we call experience.
Yes.
So how do we apply I've said number one is reciprocal learning and teaching, and that one can be done in pairs. Then there is also number two, we can use inquiry-based learning.
Let me get it right.
Inquiry-based learning.
If students are role playing,
yes,
that is reciprocal. That's a principle of reciprocal.
Yes, reciprocal learning. Yes, because you swap them up and down.
Okay.
Then the number two, we are looking at ways of applying constructivism. Number two is inquiry-based learning. I'm calling it IBL.
IDL.
I, B for boy, L. Inquiry. Yes, inquiry-based learning.
Okay.
And here, learners pose their own questions and seek answers to their questions via research and direct observation. They pose questions, but they go ahead to get answers, not from the teacher.
Mhm.
they research for the answers, or rather, they observe.
Mhm.
And I want to give you a small assignment to go and try.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, it's statistical.
It's
So
fine.
it's a mathematical concept, can be used in geography, but
Okay.
also in your research.
Mm.
In one of my research training session, I took pieces of threads, uzi,
Mm.
the ones we that our mothers used to do our sweaters,
Yes.
and sometimes ladies used to do their hair.
Mhm.
So I did cut them into small pieces, different colors, and then spread them in the classroom and told students to group themselves. And
Mhm.
then I told them, I've given you 2 seconds to pick as many as you want.
Mhm.
So they picked, and then I took them to a certain room and I told them, sit down and ask questions about what you have done. And they were able to ask which color is the most picked. Why have we picked this color more than the other color? Why didn't we pick this color and not this other color? And they were able to raise very many questions. And I told them, now
Oh, wow. Wow.
statistically represent what you have picked. Like, how many are blue in your group, how many are red, how many are yellow, and then give the answers to your questions. And they were able to say most of the colors that were picked were bright colors, because most
Mm.
people will be attracted to bright colors than dull colors.
Make-
I,
Makes a lot of
I,
sense.
are you seeing that? So they
Yes.
have made their own questions. They have answered those questions through observation and statistical data, but they have learned that normally when collecting statistical data, you are likely to skew yourself to a certain perspective depending on the circumstance of your research.
And there goes the lesson. That is what you are teaching.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes. So learning is not all about carrying about textbooks and notes, and it's not all about that. When I see in my previous station, my boss would tell me, I have not seen your notes. And I'm like, so you are still working in the gig generation, garbage in,
Yes.
garbage out.
Garbage.
When I go to
Mm.
class, I go to make knowledge. I don't go to give knowledge. I go
You
to make
explore.
knowledge. Yes. If we
Mm.
were giving knowledge today, I was telling my students, I would come here with notes and books and give you to go and read, and I have finished my work. And that would not give a teacher an opportunity, because a teacher would become irrelevant, because anybody can write a book. But a
Mm.
teacher is relevant when they make knowledge in the classroom. And that is what makes a classroom very entertaining, very pleasing. It makes the learner to just admire coming the next lesson, because they know they will
I have
make knowledge.
I have picked that, Shadrach, and thank you for highlighting that.
Yes.
Now, a teacher is not a person to just give knowledge. After all that is available in very many other avenues.
Yes.
What a teacher does instead is to construct it or facilitate the process of constructing that knowledge.
Sure.
And what I've seen from the analogy and the examples you've given is really uh, the teacher and the students are working together.
Sure.
That is the best way to construct knowledge.
Sure.
And the attitude that comes from it is the students are very excited and motivated to attend more lessons and even to
Yes.
look for this information on their own now that they know the process of getting that information.
Yes.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
And I like that what you have said, the process of getting information. But before I go to that, let me talk about humanism.
Mhm.
Humanism is learner centered. And sometimes when we say learner centered, some people think we allow learners to control in a selfish manner, because yes, we
Yes.
say the students control the pace and direction of learning.
Mhm.
That statement left hanging is very bad. It's elusive, it is suicidal, it's so naked, if I might use
Yes.
bad language. Because
Mhm.
if you tell students, tell me what you want to learn, which answer do you expect as a trainer?
No learning. I mean,
But I want to give an example of humanism. through my training, through my work as a teacher. There is a time I was teaching in Likoni boys in Mombasa, and by then it was Likoni mixed, both girls and boys. And I was teaching Fasihi Kiswahili. I've taught very many subjects. So
So many subjects.
I was teaching Kiswahili, and I was teaching Fasihi, and they were performing very badly. Yet they are in Pwani, and I was asking them, why do you perform badly when you are in Pwani? And Kiswahili is known to be born from Pwani. And I would find responses, and I told them, I want us to try this in a different manner. But they told me, teacher, we have a problem. We've been given this lesson at 2 p.m. and usually we are sleepy, we have just left food, I mean, after eating, and we are thinking about digesting the food and all that. I told them, listen, I want you to suggest for me the best way we can do this. And they said, see, teacher, why can't we do this class outside? Because the classrooms are normally hot, maybe under a tree. And they were able to identify the tree. But I told them, see, the challenge with going out of class, you will waste a lot of time to settle down, then maybe to leave that place back to class, you will waste the time for the next teacher. They said, no, teacher, we know what to do. We will elect one of us to control that, so that they ensure they have reminded us when we need to settle at the correct time. I said, right. However, I told them, I need 40 minutes to teach. When will you do that? Then they said, see, teacher, why can't we do this? We eliminate all the other teachers who come to class on one day, so that you teach from 1:30, not 2, so that we are able to digest within that 1:30 to 2 to 2:40, rather than having a 2 to 2:40 class. And I said, let's try. And these guys would organize themselves. By 1:20 they are settled, and I'm able to teach. You see, I could teach up to around 2:30. Those are like 70 minutes. That is a double lesson. And I would even just go to these other lessons to just see how much they have gathered, but not necessarily to give knowledge. I have lost you. I hope you are somewhere to be seen. You, you, you can get me? So from my... Yes. Yeah, Bwana. Yes, Bwana Kimani.
I'm still there.
Ah,
I'm still there.
nice. Now, from my example, you realize that the learners were able to prepare a classroom environment for me, and I